Welcome to my channel, USA Battle Zone. If you're here, you love stories of courage, sacrifice, and the kind of moments where ordinary people are tested in extraordinary ways. Today, I want to tell you something that changed my life forever. It's a story of rivalry, redemption, and a moment in the skies where every second counted. It begins on a summer afternoon, 30,000 feet above the earth. My sister, Emily, had always been my sharpest critic. Growing up, she never let me forget that I had chosen a path different from the rest of the family. While she studied finance and worked in a glass tower in New York City, I became a fighter pilot. To her, my career was dangerous, reckless, a boy's fantasy of Top Gun, she'd once said at Thanksgiving dinner, mocking me in front of the entire family. That sting had never left me. Now, years later, fate had placed us side by side on a commercial flight. It was supposed to be just a quiet trip across the country. A rare chance to reconnect, maybe patch old wounds. But Emily was in one of her moods. "You really think flying those jets makes you a hero?" she said loud enough for the passengers around us to hear. "You're just playing with expensive toys. If you weren't my brother, I'd laugh every time I heard you brag." I clenched my jaw, forcing a smile. I didn't want to cause a scene. But then she laughed sharp, dismissive and whispered, "Relax, you're not saving anyone here. It's not like this plane needs a wannabe pilot." Her words echoed like a cruel prophecy. Because minutes later, everything changed. A sudden jolt rocked the cabin. The plane shuddered violently, trays clattered, drinks spilled, passengers gasped. The captain's voice crackled through the intercom, strained and urgent. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We're experiencing a critical systems failure. Please remain calm. Flight attendants, take your positions." The lights flickered. The engines roared unevenly, coughing as if gasping for breath. My instinct sharpened instantly. This wasn't normal turbulence. The right engine had gone silent. I could hear it. The pitch of the plane's frame was off, banking slightly to the side. Passengers panicked. Some screamed, some prayed. Children cried as parents clutched them tight. And beside me, Emily's face turned pale, her earlier smugness erased in an instant. She grabbed my arm, her voice trembling. "Michael, what's happening?" I looked her in the eye. For the first time in years, she wasn't mocking me. She was afraid. The flight attendants hurried down the aisle, trying to calm people, but their own hands shook. I knew what they didn't. The captain was likely fighting a losing battle with the controls. A commercial pilot, as skilled as they are, doesn't train for combat maneuvers, for split-second recovery and chaos. But I had. I stood up, my military ID clutched tight in my wallet. I pushed past the frightened passengers and made my way to the front of the cabin. People stared, some even shouted, "Sit down. Where are you going?" I ignored them. Because in my gut, I knew, if I didn't act now, none of us would see the ground alive. At the cockpit door, I knocked hard. "It's Lieutenant Michael Rivers, United States Air Force. I'm a trained fighter pilot, open up." There was hesitation, muffled voices on the other side. The plane shook again, dropping what felt like 100 feet in a stomach-lurching plunge. Screams echoed through the cabin. Then click. The door opened. Inside, chaos ruled. Warning lights flashed red across the instrument panel. The captain was drenched in sweat, gripping the yoke with both hands. His co-pilot barked readings from the failing systems, but it was no use. The right engine was dead. Hydraulic pressure was dropping. The rudder was sluggish, almost unresponsive. The captain glanced at me, desperate. "You said you're Air Force." "Yes, sir. F-16s. Combat tours." "Then get in here. We need help." In that instant, training surged back into my veins. The cockpit wasn't a foreign place. It was just another battlefield, another sky that demanded everything from me. I slid into the jump seat, scanning the dials, reading the chaos like a map. The plane was banking dangerously, and if we didn't correct soon, we'd spiral. "Captain, we need to feather the engine, balance with the left throttle." "Co-pilot, divert power from non-essential systems." "I'll handle pitch trim manually." They listened. Trust was instant, born of necessity. Together, we pulled the giant bird back into some semblance of stability. But we weren't out of danger. Not even close. Emily had followed me as far as the door before being stopped by a flight attendant. She stood there, eyes wide, watching her brother do the very thing she had mocked, take command of the skies. I caught her gaze once, just for a second, and saw something I hadn't seen since we were kids: belief. Minutes stretched like hours. Every adjustment, every command, was a knife's edge between life and death. The left engine strained under the full burden of keeping us aloft. The plane was too heavy, too slow, and we were losing altitude. Nearest runway. I asked the co-pilot. Closest is Denver International, but we're too far, we won't make it at this rate. I closed my eyes, thinking. In combat, we trained for worst-case scenarios: landings on highways, emergency dives, split-second improvisation. A fighter jet was small, nimble. But this was 300 lives depending on choices I made in seconds. We can glide her, I said quietly. But we'll need a long stretch of flat ground. The captain frowned. At this altitude, it's possible. Risky, but possible. Trust me. As the earth rose in the windows, the Rockies looming like jagged teeth, I remembered a training exercise over Afghanistan. My jet had taken damage: engine fire, hydraulic loss. My commander's voice had barked in my headset: stay calm. Trust your hands. Trust the sky. Now, years later, I whispered the same words to myself. I gripped the yoke with the captain, guiding it gently. Every twitch, every movement mattered. Too sharp, and we'd stall. Too soft, and we'd drift into the mountains. Sweat poured down my temples, but my mind was ice. Focused. Alive. The passengers behind us were silent now, a collective breath held in fear and prayer. Emily sat frozen, hands clenched together, tears streaking her cheeks. She whispered words I couldn't hear, but I knew they were for me. For the first time, my sister wanted me to succeed. Then, like a miracle, I saw it. A wide stretch of highway cutting through the valley. Straight, long, flat. That's our runway, I said. The captain's eyes widened. A highway. It's either that or the mountains. Your choice. He didn't argue. We descended fast, faster than was safe. Cars on the highway screeched to a halt as our shadow loomed over them. I could almost see the terrified faces of drivers looking up at the impossible: a passenger jet bearing down. Flaps full. Gear down. I shouted. The plane groaned, metal straining. The wheels locked into place with a heavy thud. I guided the nose, hands steady despite the quake in my chest. The ground raced toward us. The engines screamed. Then impact. The plane slammed onto the asphalt, tires shrieking, smoke billowing. The fuselage rattled as if it would tear apart. We skidded, sparks flying, cars swerving off the road to avoid disaster. For endless seconds, it was chaos incarnate. And then silence. We stopped. Alive. The cabin erupted in sobs, cheers. Uncontainable relief. Strangers clutched each other, parents kissed their children. The flight attendants wept openly. The captain leaned back, exhausted, whispering, "My God, we made it." I sat there, hands still gripping the controls, heart pounding like war drums. My vision blurred with tears I hadn't realized I was holding back. And then I heard it, Emily's voice. Soft, broken, but filled with something new. "Michael, you saved us." She pushed past the attendants, rushing into the cockpit, and wrapped her arms around me. For the first time since childhood, my sister held me not with judgment, not with scorn, but with gratitude. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was wrong about you. You're not just my brother. You're my hero." Later, as emergency crews surrounded the plane, passengers filed out, many stopping to thank me, to shake my hand. Some cried as they said, "You gave us another chance." But the moment that will stay with me forever was when Emily, walking beside me on that highway-turned runway, slipped her hand into mine like she used to when we were kids. No words, no explanations, just a bond reforged in the fire of survival. That day, I didn't just save 300 lives. I saved something even more fragile: my relationship with my sister. And that, perhaps, was the greater victory. If you've stayed with me through this story, thank you. Life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. Sometimes, it takes chaos to reveal who we really are and to remind us what truly matters. This was my story. If it moved you, if it made you think about courage, family, or second chances, then I ask you, please, like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to USA Battle Zone. Because sometimes, the greatest battles aren't fought with weapons. They're fought in the heart.